Hey, hey, happy Tuesday. Pardon me, I am late. I lost track of the day. So here we are. Happy Tuesday. Welcome to Tuesday Tales. For those of you that are new in the group, we do a 20-minute training every Tuesday, and I try to be helpful and give you practical tips in ways that you can help your horse. And today we are talking about pain. Pain is a liar, you guys. Pain is a liar. I don't know if you've noticed this, but it's never as simple as it appears, right? The real issue is basically almost never where your horse is saying, "Oh, this hurts." And, today we're going to really dive into that and why that may be, why that is. Let me just make sure that I'm in the right place and you can hear me because I'm late. I didn't go through any checks beforehand. Yes, indeed. Okay, so here we go. Pain is a liar. The real issue is never where your horse says it hurts. It's not saying that the place that your horse is indicating isn't painful. It is. It is painful, but it's not the root cause. Okay, it's not the root cause. We, as living organisms, are all built with a sense, humans, animal kingdom species, we're all built with a sense of self-preservation. And that self-preservation is also tied into how we manage our pain. For example, with us as people, we experience about 10% of the pain that our body is actually dealing with at any given time. Because if it were more than that, we wouldn't be able to survive. Okay? And, when it comes to horses, they are prey animals. And obviously, prey animals are going to really, really, really want to hide their weaknesses, right? That show, do you guys remember that show? You are the weakest link. Goodbye. Okay. As prey animals, yeah, when you're the weakest link, you are eaten, okay? When a herd of zebras are out on the safari, or is that right? Is that like the word? They're not on safari, they're whatever. Anyways, not important. You know what I'm trying to say. When they're out there, okay, they are eating their grass and they're munching as a herd, right? And obviously, zebras are built with the stripes that help disguise one from the other so that the predators have a harder time singling one out. But you know what makes it easy to single one out? Obvious pain patterns, okay? When a horse is clearly not moving correctly, when they are clearly limping, when they are slow, when there are signs, there's body language that goes across species that we can read, right? And predators can pick up on who's old, who's young, who's stupid, who's injured, who's sick. And the weakest ones, the old, the injured, the young, the sick, those are the ones that are targeted. Preferably not the sick ones usually because, well, disease. And yes, that's built in, okay? Predators are smart enough to know we don't eat the sick ones if we don't have to. But, they stand out from the pack, let alone the fact that they are slower, right? They are literally weaker. And so the longer they can hide that weakness, the longer they're going to survive. And this is not something we can train out of our horses. This is not something we want to train out of our horses. This is the thing where people talk about desensitizing their horses. And I'm like, why would we want to do that? Why would we want to desensitize our horses? I want to know. I want my horse to be sensitive. I want my horse to communicate with me. And desensitizing is going to eliminate some of that communication. I'm going to train it out of them. And that's not what I'm going for. I want that open communication. And to get that open communication, I have to build trust and rapport. I also have to know that no matter how much my horse trusts me or loves me, no matter how much, they are still going to have natural instinctive responses to pain. And part of that is hiding that pain, okay? So we get to follow pain patterns, which is something that we go over in depth inside of the Intuitive Equine Bodywork Certification program. Which, this is a lot of following fascia patterns. This is understanding how muscle chains work and muscle groups work, because when one muscle group is in pain and unable to function, other muscle groups have to compensate for that. And there's a general pattern that we see happen in the body because of the way the body works. All things are connected, right? So pain is usually not the primary problem. The area that we're seeing that initial bout of pain, the area where we're like, oh, they're really sore here. So oftentimes when I go out to see a horse, like I'm going to be palpating through the lumbar and over this glute here in the croup, and I'm going to get a reaction, right? They're going to be like, oh God, no, don't touch that. That's not the problem. This area where we're getting the, oh God, reaction, that is a symptom. And I think that that's what is so often missed, is we're often identifying all these symptoms and calling them problems. The symptoms aren't the problems, they're the messengers. Okay? So the symptoms help us to narrow in on what exactly is going on. So I can identify what's going on in this glute, and I'm going to keep assessing through the body and be like, okay, if this glute is sore, which shoulder is also sore? And that's going to tell me where this problem starts to originate, whether it's in the front or the back. One of the other things that I like to tell people, this helps people really make a quick assessment as to who is going to best serve them in any given moment. If your horse appears more lame in a sand arena, on a soft surface, on a soft, like my yard right now is super soft because of the light. If they are more sore on a soft surface than, say, a solid road, a concrete floor, asphalt, a hard limestone track, if they're more sore on the soft, then we have a soft tissue issue. Soft tissue issues. And if they're more sore on that hard surface, we have a hard, bony problem. Does that make sense? Now, the reason that makes sense when we look at the horse's body is soft tissues are responsible for creating stability. And those soft surfaces are going to create instability in the skeletal structure. And so when we have that instability from the soft surface and more lameness, we're generally looking at a soft tissue problem, because that soft tissue is too sore or too weak or injured to create the stability necessary to support the skeletal system. When we put the horse on the solid ground, doesn't it just make sense that the solid ground creates concussion that reverberates up through the bones that are like, yeah, that hurts, right? So that's just one of those things where it's like, I might be working on a horse, this has happened, true story. We might be working on a horse where we are extremely sensitive and sore through this glute. You can't see my pony. Through this glute. Make pony taller, not tall enough. Sorry, guys. I have to hold the pony. So I might have a horse that's sore through the glute. And what actually is going on, which we didn't realize until I started really releasing. And in this case, I wasn't watching this horse move under the circumstances. This is a racehorse. I was never there to see him go. And when I was there to see him go, he looked okay on the track. We could tell something was off. And the track at home is sand, and he looked like decent, like he was sore, but, not bad. Did a couple of massages, really worked out this glute, relaxed a lot of the tension there. He goes to the racetrack where it's a much more hard surface. And guess what? This sore glute was actually a compensation for the broken splint bone on the opposite side. And so when we're looking at where our horses are showing us the immediate pain, that's the other thing to recognize, is because they're used to and wanting to conceal pain patterns to keep themselves safe inherently from the predators of the world, they're not going to show you the weakest point, right? Their body is naturally going to compensate for two reasons. One, to hide the pain, and two, to create the most efficient pattern of movement moving forward, okay? That most efficient pattern of movement is still not as efficient as if the horse were functioning fully properly, right? If everything was working as it should, it would be extra efficient. But in order to compensate, the body makes changes like creating a lot of tension, adding rigidity, adding calcium to places, including in fascia to like almost scar tissue it to really add support so the muscles don't have to fatigue so much. But there's still a process, and it takes a little bit of time and does create muscle fatigue. Additionally, again, when we're talking about turning off one set of muscles, like one muscle group due to pain or the compensation pattern, and overdeveloping and overworking another set of muscles. So there's a lot that goes into these pain patterns. And the longer that your horse is suffering, the more complicated it becomes to unwind all of the pain patterns in most cases, okay? So remember that the body is working through as a chain, right? The head is absolutely connected to the pelvis, okay? It connects along the top line all the way back to the pelvis. It also connects from inside the mouth in the hyoid bone. That bone actually is connected all the way down, under here, up here, and back into the pelvis again. So your horse's body works as a chain. We have to trace back exactly where this pain pattern is going. And a lot of times it looks something like over here, over there, up here, over there, right? We're zigzagging back and forth. And one of my friends who is she's like me, but for horses. She's a myofascial practitioner, massage therapist, and a body intuitive, and she explains fascia. I love how she explains fascia in the human body as a double helix, right? So it looks like our DNA, it kind of comes down and it twists and it goes around. Same. Turn your horse this way. And the fascia twists, okay? It comes across. So when we've got fascia tension, things that are pulling fascia, it's never as simple as being like, I have tension here, this is the problem. You might have tension here because fascia is actually being tightened up back here, okay? And this can work in lots of different ways, but that's the general line of things. So when I do massage, I do 3 sessions in about 14 days, and this allows me to work through layers, okay? Because like I said, over time, the body is bringing in reinforcements to create more efficiency, and that more efficiency means more layers of tension to create stability so that the muscles aren't having to work so hard. So we get to release one layer of tension at a time to be able to allow the horse to start moving the way that its body has to move in order to be as pain-free as possible. As we start to peel off those layers, we start to see the original pain pattern. So again, this is one of those things where it's like, it's not the first spot of pain that you notice. It's not always the second. And if somebody's coming out and looking at your horse one time and saying, well, this is where the pain is, that's not the answer to the problem. That's not the source. That's just identifying the symptom. Okay, so we get to go a layer deeper than that, 3 layers deeper than that, and really dig into what the source is. And over time, we can start to tell, is this starting here? Is it starting there? When I do sessions, I like to explain to people, like, the first session, we're just taking off the top layer. The second session, I'm going to come back, and a lot of times, I'm looking at a completely different compensation pattern at this point. But that's not always the case, but it is often the case. And then when I come back the third time, I should be looking at a different compensation pattern. It's not always different the third time. If it's not different, then it is significantly less than it was the second session. And if it is different, is it back to where we started in session 1, or is it completely different? If it's back where we started, then we might have something major elsewhere going on that may require further imaging or more diagnostics from a veterinarian. It may require, a farrier to step in and change hoof angles. Usually I can see that from the first session though. But it also may require a dentist to come in because again, the head is linked to the pelvis. And so if the teeth are not aligned, pelvis isn't aligned, okay? So there's a lot that goes into this, yes, and it can sound very overwhelming. But the way that I approach things, I don't feel like it is overwhelming. Now that doesn't mean that I don't have moments of like, oh my God, what's happening? Because I do. But the way that I teach this is, the pain patterns. And we can unwind logically as far as we can go. And then 2, how to really trust our intuition to know what we need to focus on. Because something is going to stand out to you. And the way that I explain intuition is by, pointing out that, I think we talked about it last week perhaps, that your subconscious mind takes in like mirror images. Like, what is this? What is this? Which side are we on? Your subconscious mind takes in 7 billion different details in a day, and your conscious mind would be completely overwhelmed by that, right? We're overstimulated as it is, and we don't even get everything that our brain is actually taking in. Our senses take in so much information that our conscious mind cannot possibly function and process all of it. So it takes in all this information and pushes through what is crucially important, what we're looking for, which is why it's really important that you continue to look for an answer, right? As soon as you stop believing that an answer is possible, your subconscious mind stops putting through information that could send you in the right direction. Once we kind of get all that information from our subconscious mind, We might have just like an intuitive hit, a feeling, a gut feeling that says like, but this feels really important. And if that feels really important, your subconscious mind probably picked up on something that your conscious mind just isn't aware of yet. And we can work with that. And so we go over that in the Intuitive Equine Bodywork Certification as well. We talk about the intuitive side of things, developing our intuition. And from here, we're able to just follow the process too. When you know how to apply massage, apply myofascial release, apply cranial sacral therapy, and these don't have to be long. I find that as I'm teaching, students are using myofascial release and don't realize they're doing it. Same with cranial sacral therapy. They don't realize they're doing it because it is intuitive, because it is innate inside of all of us. This is not something that we're learning. It is something that we are remembering. It is innate. It is in our cells. We already know what we're doing. And so often I see out in the horse world all of these things where it's like, learn how to do cranial sacral, learn how to do myofascial release, learn how to do this method, learn how to do that method. And they all tout being something different. And in my time doing this, I'm like, they're all the same. They're just taught slightly differently. And that's fine because we all learn a little bit differently. But, when we're looking at things where they're like, this is a whole new method, they're not new, guys. It's just being remembered a little bit differently. It's just being applied slightly differently depending on who's teaching it, okay? So, when we know how to apply those things, though, we can apply the process. We can do the massage. We can apply the different methodologies. We can try different things and watch as the body responds. And when we do that, when we take that input that we get from the body and reapply it to that process of unwinding what's going on, what we're seeing, when we take all of the observations that we make about what's going on with this particular horse on this particular day at this particular time, we can start to see what's really going on. And again, this is something that what I do and the way I train my students is we're going to have an answer in 3 sessions. And we don't fuck around. We're not waiting for 3 months to go by. Okay, we do 3 sessions in 2 weeks because if we did 1 session a month, every time we come back, we're going to be starting at ground zero because we aren't working through the horse's pain pattern in a way that allows them actual freedom, that allows them actual healing and recovery time. When we do it in 2 weeks, we're able to give them time to recover and not slide backwards. If they slide backwards, we know red flag, we need to call somebody else. And we're going to know why. We're going to be able to give that somebody else the information they need to get the imaging, to do the thing, like whatever the problem is. And that's, one of the really powerful things that I enjoy about my work is, people come to me on the end of the rope, like, I don't know what's going on. I've had so many vets give this horse clear, and I've been down to the best vets in the world, and they're telling me my horse is clear, but I know something is wrong. I can see that it's wrong. They can see that it's wrong, but all the imaging is clear. There's no pain here. I can find it, and I can not just find it, but I can say go image again, specifically here. And when they do, they find the answer, right? And so that is why it is crucial that we have more practitioners involved in our horse's care, because when we come with this from a whole horse approach, we can really change how they are living their lives, and we can make a really big impact. So all of that said, when we are looking at pain, the important things you need to remember is pain is a symptom. Pain is telling us something. It is giving us information. And we have everything we need to start narrowing down what things are. There are absolutely situations where we cannot, from the outside of the horse, assess what's going on. There's congenital malformations that we can't see from the outside. There are sometimes injuries that we cannot see from the outside, and we can't understand what's going on. But I find those to be rare situations, and when they happen, this process of really evaluating what's going on with your whole horse and working through pain patterns, we can again narrow down and figure out what exactly is going on, and at least narrow down the area, okay? Because then we can say, all right, well, this is the kind of imaging you're going to need to be able to figure out what's going on here, because this is in fact the problem area. We've been through everything else. We've chased the pain pattern down, and this is where it stops. This is where the buck stops. And that's what this is all about, is about being able to identify the root cause of what is actually going on for your horse, because it's not just where they're telling you it's sore. Okay, and this applies too for things like abscesses. Just because they're telling you that their foot hurts and you know there's an abscess there does not mean that the abscess is the root cause. Take it a step further. Take it a step further. Your horse doesn't just get an abscess for no apparent reason. There's a cause, and it's not an abscess. It can be nutritional for sure. It can be, for whatever reason, a suppressed immune system. And we get to unravel that because then we get to fully support our horses in ways that really benefit them and create long-term change. So, that is all I have for you today. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday Tales. If you are interested in learning more about the Intuitive Equine Bodywork Certification Program, I'm going to drop a link in the comments for a horse and soul session. These horse and soul sessions are calls where you're just going to jump on with me and we're just going to see where you're at and what would be most beneficial for you and if you are a good fit for the program, and go from there. So, all right, guys, I will see you next Tuesday.